Welcome to PCN Life, a show that highlights life on the South Shore. Tonight, we have our May events to highlight in our Save the Date segment.
Mindful Moments is back with psychotherapist Leslie Cutler with insights on being a people pleaser.
It's going to be a great show, and we start out at Plymouth Fitness, whose staff has always had great insights for motivating all of us to exercise more. And this is the time of year, it's mid-April, where you got to start thinking about, okay, beach coming up in about 6 to 8 weeks, so we got to get in shape.
Yeah.
And some people have chosen now to work out at home. They do whatever they have at home, they have that. Some people join big classes, and you see some of these huge classes, like Zumba classes that have like 50 people. And some people are now doing this small group exercise.
And what happens with these small groups is for the people that don't want to get lost in the shuffle of one of those giant Zumba classes or aerobics classes, you name it. It's easy to kind of get not enough attention paid to you specifically while you're doing it. And then there's the other side of the coin where if it's a one-on-one session with a trainer, it's almost too much pressure to perform. And working out by yourself, a lot of people, is just out of the question because it's too intimidating. So what they have now are these small groups. And we've probably seen them before as maybe 5 or 6, 7 people. And
they go around to different stations, right? They do really weird different things. Well, I mean, it looks strange, but it clearly works because at the end of the session, they're exhausted and they've had a great workout. And like you said, they haven't been intimidated, and it's a smaller group. Yeah.
And, you know, to the untrained eye, it looks disorganized, but we actually sat in on one of these sessions and it's totally organized and it makes total sense. So let's have a look at that right now.
Okay.
This is Matt Wentworth with PCN Life, Health and Wellness. Small group training is perfect for all ages, all body types. We like to focus on interval training, so making sure that we're keeping our rest times down low and our repetitions up high to keep your heart rate up the entire time while we're focusing on strength. With the ropes that we have set up, we like to focus on keeping your heart rate up the entire time throughout the duration so that you're keeping your metabolism up high and burning a lot of calories during your workout. The burpees, they work on your vertical jump as well as your endurance and cardiovascular fitness. With the medicine ball slams, we're focusing on core strength as well as cardiovascular endurance. With the TRX pistol squats, we're focusing on balancing on one leg at a time, as well as working on your quad, hamstring, and glute strength. With our sprint drills that we do, we want to focus on your cardiovascular and aerobic fitness levels, so your short spurts, as well as keeping your cardiovascular fitness in check. With our reverse lunges and medicine ball rotations, we're focusing on the isometric hold on your quads, hamstrings, and glutes, as well as a core rotation to work on rotational strength. Making sure that you have good balance is key, as well as making sure that you don't have any muscle imbalances. So working on single leg movements and single arm movements are very important to make sure that you're keeping everything symmetrical. I do love working with the small groups. It ends up being a very tight-knit group of people, so everybody's friends when they come in here, so it ends up being like you're just friends going through your workout together. It makes it very easy to stay motivated when you have your friends going through it with you. Thanks for joining us with PCN Life, Health and Wellness.
And we welcome you back to another episode of Mindful Moments with licensed psychotherapist Leslie Cutler.
Hi, good to be here today, Julie.
Welcome back, Leslie.
Thank you so much.
Spring has sprung.
Oh, finally! It is finally here.
It is. It's wonderful.
Yes.
And today we're going to talk about something that a lot of people have a problem with, and it's stop being a people pleaser. So let's dig into this.
You know, I think one of the most freeing things we can learn in our life is that we don't have to like everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't have to like us, and it's okay. And I think once we come to that, our lives significantly change. But I think for all of us, there have been those times where, you know, we have wanted so badly to fit in or maybe to be liked that perhaps we've done things that maybe we, you know, probably shouldn't have done or set a clearer boundary about. So today I want to talk about, you know, what is a people pleaser? And, you know, I think one thing that I need to state right up front is that, you know, doing nice things and helping out other people and being a good friend, all of that does not mean you're a people pleaser.
Right. That's just being a good person.
That's just being a good human being.
But there's a difference between that and being a doormat.
And that's exactly the case. You know, and I think what the difference is for people pleasers, they yearn for this external approval on a level where so much of their self-esteem and sense of self is based around it.
Right.
And when they, you know, do these acts of people pleasing, there's this immediate high, and then followed frequently by resentment and sadness.
Right. Because they didn't really want to do what they did.
Right, and they're overcommitted and they're exhausted, and you know, I mean,
Right.
all these things.
So you broke this down into basically 5 steps.
So I broke this down in just a couple of different steps. The first one, Julie,
Is admit and commit to change.
yeah,
Okay. So first we have to admit what? What are we admitting?
that you have a problem or I have a problem being a people pleaser.
Okay.
And I think this is key to working through just about anything.
Right.
You know, really kind of looking at it and saying, you know, I didn't like who I was in that situation. These are the things that I want to change about myself. Perhaps even writing down, you know, when I find myself in this situation, this is indeed what I want to do and how I want to approach it.
Okay.
You know, I think we've all known people that have been so exhausted and depleted that they're just snapping left and right.
Right.
But yet they continue to overcommit,
Yeah.
put themselves out there on a level that's ridiculous.
And they know they shouldn't do it, but they keep doing it over and over and
They
over again.
can't
Right.
stop
And they can't say no.
They can't
Yeah,
say no.
right.
Which, you know, kind of leads us into the next one, is really practicing hard to say no.
Right.
And, you know, I work with my clients a lot on this because I think many people fear that as soon as they start setting that boundary, that their relationships are going to be destroyed. That people are going to think that maybe they're a mean person, that maybe they don't care about them, that sort of thing. So, you know, I work frequently with people and say, listen, let's set up some things that we can say or that feel comfortable, are true to you as a person, and don't compromise who you are, but are still kind. You know, listen, I have this day booked, but perhaps we can meet for, set a time frame, you know,
Right.
between 10 and 12 tomorrow and look at this
Right.
further. Or, oh, I'm sorry, but I'm so overcommitted right now.
And you know, a lot of what I've noticed with friends and when I was helping in a lot of groups with my kids were growing up is it seems the same people are always on the committees and always doing everything. And you get to the point where you literally, you feel bad, but you have to say no.
Right.
So
right.
why does that happen all the time?
Well, I think people kind of look out for those people that are always the yes people, the
Yeah.
people that are the doers. And there's nothing wrong with being a doer,
Right.
but it, you know, again, it's the point of knowing, looking at your schedule realistically and
Right.
saying, hey, is this something I'm passionate about? Is this something that I'm willing to take on in this moment? You know, no is a word that many of us could really use more often
Right.
than we do.
Right, right.
And, you know, so that is a bit of the challenge as well.
And you can't feel guilty about saying no.
Well, right, and that leads us to our
Yeah.
next point, which is, you know,
Realize that your self-worth is not measured by external approval. And that's the hardest.
and that is the hardest.
Right.
You know,
Because we all want to be accepted and loved and appreciated, and that's how we do sometimes measure ourselves.
right. But when we find ourselves constantly in those positions of so wanting it so badly that we can't say no, usually there's a piece of our history or our childhood that needs to be examined in that. And, you know, and I say that in the most kindest way. You know, there's probably some sort of distortion or something going on that isn't healthy. And, you know, we can only, you know, get our self-validation from ourselves.
Right.
You know, we can only, you know, we need to be full, we need to be, you know, complete in order to find our own happiness.
Right. And don't you find that the older you get, the easier it is to just say no? You know, this is what I'm worth. This is my time. I would love to help, and I will help to the best of my ability. But I'm not going to feel guilty about saying no. And I remember in my 20s and my 30s, I would say yes to everything. Oh
Yes.
yes, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do
Right,
it.
right.
And then you end up resenting what you're doing, which
Yes.
is crazy.
Yeah, I think as you get older, you know, there's a certain amount of courage that comes with age.
yeah, that's
I
true.
also think as you get older, you're a little bit more clear about how you want to spend your time, what you're passionate about, what you love. You know, there will always be those few things that you'll give your time to, and then there's all this extra space.
Right.
And how you're going to spend it does change and shift as you get older.
Right.
And obviously, when you're younger, if you have children, you know, there's only so much time to be had.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Which leads to 4.
Yeah, except that you'll feel guilty the first few times.
When you say no, right?
Oh my goodness, and it's very, very true.
Yeah.
People feel incredible guilt because it's something so different. It's pushing them out of their comfort zone. It's pushing them out of what they know. You know, I always tell my clients, grab a journal,
Yeah.
make a list of the pros and cons of doing XYZ tasks. More often than not, we find that the pros of not doing it are greater.
Than the pros of doing it. Yeah.
Right. So, take care of yourself in that way.
Right.
Realizing like it's okay, that feeling's going to ride out. It's unnecessary guilt.
Now, does this saying no, it applies to your relationship with your children?
Yes.
Your relationship to your friends? Now, what about your relationship to work and your boss? And I mean,
And
how
that's-
do you translate it over to your actual work life?
And that's the hard part. And, it's, how do you set boundaries with your boss?
Right.
And that's always a challenge too. And that's where you can kind of use that time constraint. Oh, I have a meeting between 9 and 10. Well, why don't we meet at 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
We can talk about this for half an hour and we can figure out how this can fit into my schedule.
So be proactive with your time with your bosses.
Absolutely.
Okay, rather than being reactive.
Yes.
Okay.
Good point.
Okay.
Very good point.
Okay. And that leads us to the fifth thing, which is let go of the people who use you and use your people pleaser tendencies.
Yeah.
Now, this is hard.
And this is really hard.
Because how do you define someone as someone who's using you for your people pleaser tendencies versus someone who just knows you're great at something and wants you to be involved?
Well, I think the second you say no and that person disappears from your life, it's a very clear way of knowing. But I also think, too, the people that don't accept no for an answer, somebody who's friends with you will say, I understand.
Yeah.
But somebody who has motives that aren't necessarily pure are going to just keep badgering you and badgering you and badgering you.
Right.
And, you quickly realize once you start setting that boundary that these people will kind of fall along the wayside.
Right.
And it will happen quite quickly,
Right.
which is interesting. But, it's easy to slip back into old behaviors.
Yeah.
And I think this is something we've all struggled with at different points in our lives.
Absolutely.
And, sometimes we have to remind ourselves, wait just a second.
Yeah.
And, the other night I was cornered at an event and somebody just wouldn't stop. And I had to do the stall
Yeah.
because in the moment, that was all I could do was, you know what, let me think about this and get back to you.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with saying that.
Right.
So you can go away and really think about it. Is
Right.
this something that I want to use my time for?
Now, is it better to, if you're going to say no to someone, whether it's your child or your husband or your boss or a friend who wants you to work on a committee, to do it face-to-face, or is it better to take your time and maybe write an email where you can put all your thoughts down? What's your thought about that?
Well, it depends who it is. If it's
Okay.
a more formal setting, and it's about a committee or perhaps a PTA type event,
Right.
or something along those lines,
And
I
that's
think
the ones where you always have the same people.
it's always the
Always
same people.
the same
that do it.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those I feel like it's fine to send an email.
Yeah.
But when it comes to your spouse or
Yeah, send an
close-
email to your text your husband.
Text
I'm
your
not
husband.
taking out the garbage.
Not a chance. No. Those are the situations where you want to sit down and be like, I'm just not sure how we can make this work.
Right.
And make it a we, because when it is somebody that you're close to, it does become a we. When it's a family member, it becomes a we.
Right.
We keep finding ourselves at this place. What can we do so that both of our time is honored and our needs are met?
Right. And it's a fine line too when you're teaching your children between being a people pleaser and
Yeah.
being someone who people want to go to because you're a strong individual or you're good at something or you're great at organizing people and not being taken advantage of.
Right.
And you have to almost learn that really young.
You do.
That you got to set your parameters of your time, your energy, your space.
Yes.
And once you do that, you got it made.
Right, and that we're not defined by what we produce.
Right.
And I think that was a big struggle for me personally,
Yeah.
was realizing, yeah, I can do these things, but it does not define
Right.
who I am or who I want to be.
Right, right.
And so I think that focus is really important
Right.
as well.
Your accomplishments are in your head and in your heart,
Bingo.
more than on paper.
Yes.
All right,
very
Miss
much so.
Leslie.
Well, thank you so much,
More
Julie.
wonderful advice from you in our mindful moments, and we'll have you back again soon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was great to be here.
And we're going to pass it over to Save the Date with Maureen Bates.
Good evening, and thanks for tuning in to PCN Life. Tonight on Save the Date, we are diving into May. There are some great seasonal events you don't want to miss coming up in our 4 towns. Starting in Pembroke, Sunday, May 7th, at the Pembroke Herring Run is the annual Grand Ole Fish Fry. This one is always a crowd pleaser and very family friendly. There will even be a little entertainment by our friend Matt York at 1 p.m. So bring the whole family, get some fresh air, catch a fish, and catch some tunes. On Thursday, May 18th, the South Shore Locavores will be hosting Backyard Grilling with Paula Marceau. Paula Marceau is the author of Cooking with Fire and will be demonstrating some delicious live fire shellfish cooking tips. This event will be held at the Kingston Council on Aging from 7 to 9 p.m. You don't want to miss it, especially since we are getting into grilling season. If life is feeling like a bridge over troubled water, then you don't want to miss Art Garfunkel coming to Memorial Hall in Plymouth on May 20th at 8 p.m. This legendary performer saw his heyday back in the 1970s when he performed with Paul Simon and the duo Simon and Garfunkel. His successful career went on to film acting and even a hit solo career. This is a rare opportunity to see a legend of this caliber outside of Boston. So here at PCN Life, we highly recommend not missing out. And nothing says relaxation like brunch and live music. The Windsor House in Duxbury will be hosting the Williams Reunion Jazz Band for a brunch event on Sunday, May 28th. The Windsor House, with its exceptional menu and colonial comfort style, is sure to provide an excellent experience while catching a little jazz. Please visit the Windsor House Inn website for ticket information. I hope you got all that down. So until June, I'm Maureen Bates with PCN Life Save the Date. Thanks for tuning in.
We hope you enjoyed this week's Life. You can rewatch the show at PACTV Prime Channel on our website or catch us on YouTube.
Be sure to check out PCN Life on Instagram for lifestyle and foodie pics from our towns.
See you in 2 weeks for more Life on the South Shore.
Thank you, as always, Julie. Tonight we have on set Matt York. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Maureen.
So it's been a long time since we've seen each other. I think it's been a week and a half since we saw each other at the Spire.
Yeah, I've missed you.
Yeah, it's well, that's beautiful. Thank you. Tell me a little bit about that event at the Spire and the free concert series.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a show put on by the Music Box and by Mick over there, and I opened up for a band called The Novel Ideas, and so it was really cool. I played with the full band, and we had a blast. It was a really great time.
Awesome. Now, tell me a little bit about your journey to this point. I mean, it's kind of an interesting story. You showed up there to the open mic about a year ago, and tell me what happened from there.
Yeah, so I had been a musician all through my 20s and teens and stuff, and then really stopped doing it for a long time, and they had this open mic competition, and I thought my kids would get a kick out of seeing me on the stage there.
It's like, oh, there's Dad.
Right. So I did it. You had to do like a preliminary round. I did that, and then I did the finals, and my kids came, and my kids promptly fell asleep before I even
They were really
played.
excited by it.
They were out cold. Yeah. So, but I met Mark Bryant, who runs the recording studio there in the basement, and we started making an album shortly thereafter, and here we are.
So you have an album. What's the name of the album?
The album is called Boston, Texas. Yeah, it just came out about a month ago, and it's available on iTunes and everywhere.
Cool. Boston, Texas. Is there a story behind that?
Yeah, so I've lived in Boston pretty much my whole life, but I did live in Texas for a brief amount of time when I was a kid in Austin, and I've just always loved the music of both the Boston music world and Texas, so it's kind of a mesh of those two.
Very cool. So you'll be playing a song off that album.
I will.
What's it called?
This song's called Losing Streak.
All right, take it away.
All right. Sometimes love is coming, sometimes going. And sometimes when it's just gone. Your love's like silver or lead paint. It's even more in the air or you're all done. everything that's possible. I'll give to you. I am on a losing streak. Maybe when the sun comes up, you'll reappear. Maybe then you'll see that I was just scared. 'Cause when the sun goes down,